Hi guys, quick update here for Bitcoin technical analysis for YouTube, 13th of September, Tuesday, 2022. Hope everyone's doing great. Now, just to give my update here on what's going on. So Thursday night going into, Friday morning, basically flipped long on this market the minute these range highs got taken out, and I have declared a full-blown top in the US dollar, at least short term. To me, that's the top for the entire year. Now, longer term, now, we did say on the last YouTube video, I mean, this, it cannot go any more parabolic than it already is going. And I mean, I've never seen anything move like this. This is the world reserve currency. It shouldn't be moving like a lunar sea coin, it shouldn't be moving like an altcoin. This was very close to actually turning back on itself, okay? So, to me, the whole Bitcoin rally is, precipitated by a dollar top. I think the year high for the dollar is in. We also mentioned a Q4 rally in a US midterm year. The SPX, I mean, I've lost all faith here trying to figure out what's going on. We've got people out here calling for a 1-2-1-2, the world's going to end crash. So, this count is completely valid. Now, this is getting recorded about 6 hours before the CPI date. So everyone who's looking to short this level here, I've actually cancelled my order there because everyone's got the same order as I have. So, is it a 1-2-1-2 crash? No, I don't think so. I can't decipher this. I've honestly, I don't have a clue, to be honest. With this S&P, it's too hard to figure out what's going on. I'm leaning more bullish, though, only because of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has got 85% correlation with the S&P going in towards the end of the year. The long-term plan was, from the start of the year, I don't really want to get too bearish here. I did take this count off the table. I honestly don't know how we're going to complete this S&P count. I just refuse to believe that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's just too much overlap there, and I don't know, it's some kind of ABC. I just can't decipher this, and this is not really an S&P video, but there's your 1-to-1. So maybe that's an A. I mean, this is just very, very difficult. It's completely impossible to trade this as a long-term investment. It's just absolutely impossible trying to decipher this. So that's an ABC, right? So if that's an ABC, let's say hypothetically we rally here to 4,600, take out these stops above this high here. But how does that get you to all-time new highs? So maybe that is then part of a larger A, then B, then C, and then this remains to be seen. And obviously the way I label things is A, B, so something like this. But honestly, I've just lost all faith trying to decipher the S&P. This is not an S&P video. Bitcoin is a lot more easier to read. Thursday night, declared a top on the US dollar. I needed confirmation, and right now, I think this is more than just a short squeeze. The whole of Twitter, I mean, it's quite funny what they do, really. They actually tell you where they're going to short and where they're going to put their targets and stops. So you just put a stop where their target is and a target where their stop is. So, whilst it is definitely, respect to anyone shorting this and the ES here, to me, this is a change of character, though. This looks very different to this. I had no faith in any of this, and I was come down here, formed a shake-up pattern. I mean, it's formed an overnight low. I'm not too happy about that, but regardless, this looks very different to this. This looks very, very impulsive. I think there's very much a potential here where we could squeeze rapidly here. The count on the S&P is a mess, but some kind of corrective, quote-unquote, nonsense kind of move here in towards the end of the year. Honestly, I think Bitcoin could squeeze something like this. It could easily squeeze to 30, 35K. Very similar, in fact, to this. And I get a feeling, or get the feeling, that the sentiment is very similar to how it was here. And then we got this move. We call this move here. It was going to go 10K. In the end, it went 14K. So Bitcoin really doesn't mess about. When it wants to, waste your life, it will go sideways for what feels like years. And then seemingly out of nowhere, it has a completely parabolic move. And when it starts to trend, I have a feeling it may very well trend, because I'm very bearish US dollar now. So really, that's why I've changed my opinion on Bitcoin. I was actually looking for lower because I wasn't, completely happy with this ABC. I was looking for an ABC down to here. The count was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I feel as though it's truncated here. And, a few stocks in the crypto arena, which I'm bullish on now, or more bullish than I was, they're also helping to confirm actually Bitcoin might very well squeeze here. Like I said, this is getting recorded about 6 hours before the CPI data, but what are the chances now of this CPI report? Is it really going to happen? I just don't think so. I get the feeling a lot of people are going to fall. I mean, that is a huge collapse that the shorts are looking for. I mean, like I said, respect to anyone shorting this, but I get the feeling this market just wants to go higher. I mean, I suppose there's a chance we could come back to take out this low, and then that's it. I can't see this falling much below 20,000. Obviously, if it ends up coming back below this consolidation block here, then obviously I'm wrong. And then we look at, the lower target. So the problem with this market is by the time it's quote unquote confirmed bullish, you've already missed a 50% move. And that's just the way this market works. It's got 100% realized volatility. Beta has to be around 3.5 or 4 compared to the S&P. So you have no choice but to FOMO in quick and FOMO in early before the move gets away from you. This would obviously be the alternate count. We're going to collapse from here. And like I said, it's 14.5 and 15,000. But I get the feeling this market wants to go higher. And I'm fairly convinced that the dollar top is in. So that's my take, basically. So that's my take on Bitcoin. I think the S&P is very hard. And we're just going to have to go with the flow. So longer term, that could all be one X wave. So that could all be one giant A leg or a W leg. We can now be forming some, could last 3 months, 6 months, end up, 35, 40,000, best case scenario, 50,000. And then we end up coming back down again. Now, eventually, we are indeed going to come lower. Just like the S&P, right? We are definitely going to, end up in a range between the pandemic highs and the pandemic lows, right? Exactly like the S&P. The problem is bear markets can sometimes take years, and we could actually be here for years between the range of the pandemic low and the pandemic high. So we could effectively be in this range for the next 5 years. This larger, let's pop that in, red or something. Well, that's a bit aggressive there, so let's just pop that down. So we could be in this large blue box for 5 years, but obviously within that there's plenty of swing trades to be had, anywhere between a 20% move to potentially up to a 100% move. So that's my feeling. I don't think this move is going to take us to all-time new highs on Bitcoin. I think that's very unlikely because well, I just don't feel this is the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't feel that's the count, but we are very net short on this asset class. Retail traders on the futures very rarely get net short on Bitcoin futures. In fact, it's only happened about 3 times in history. So, that is definitely something to note. Now, this website is obviously a load of waste of time, because it's secondary, none of it's relevant, but it is interesting. If we do squeeze here, a score of 22 twice, that's a double bottom there. So we could squeeze very, very high here. Once again, very similar to how it was down here. Stock to flow, haven't looked at this in over a year. Secondary indicators. People have lost hundreds of millions of pounds from 69k to 17k because they've been following this model, right? Why would you buy at 50k just to panic sell at 17k? It doesn't make any sense. This model has now reduced by 40 grand to 62,000. I don't think it gets there, by the way. I think it gets to about 35, 40k maybe, but not 62k. But it is interesting. The model price has now reduced, and obviously, where's the other one? There's also one more. So let's just quickly find it here. This is interesting. It's a double bottom in the green area. Once again, kind of similar to here. So I'm getting the feeling of a December 18, January 19, 6-month kind of, cyclical bull market in a secular bear market. That's what I think is going on here. So it's a multi-year secular bear market, right? So a multi-year, we're going to be here for years, probably exploring this entire range top to bottom. But this, I feel, I don't want to get too bearish Bitcoin here. There's a lot of people on Twitter, on YouTube who have been squeezed out of their shorts, and they are very persistent. But my advice is, or my take is, if you're shorting this market and you're convinced, you have to have an invalidation point. You know, surely 25,000, surely you have to say, assuming it doesn't form an S-curve pattern, go above and then do this, right? Put your stop there and then yeah, fine, you get a big collapse. Assuming it doesn't do that, if it stabilizes above 25k, you have to say this market's going to go higher. The first obvious target is obviously going to be these stops, you know, 32455. And I always advocate everyone takes their count off the futures ideally. Certainly, that's the way I've been doing it since 2017. You know, why would you go off Bitstamp? It doesn't make any sense. It's a 24-hour market. You know, you want to be going off the 5-day market here. So, you know, my take is, if you're shorting this, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, just understand that there has to be an invalidation point. Surely, if it gets above 25k, you have to say that it's truncated here. You have to say the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 has truncated, right? And that's the thing with this market. By the time it gets to 25k, you've already missed a 30% move, if not more. Now, I wanted to find the other indicator here, so let's just have a look. I forget. It's the realized profits. Which one is it? This is the one I actually like to use. Like I said, these are secondary indicators. You know, these are not important here. There's people on YouTube doing hour-long videos on this nonsense who have led people to hold from 69k just to panic sell at, you know, 17k. It doesn't really make any sense. So this was, yeah. So once again, we've double bottomed, and now we're breaking past through the zero line. Similar to here. This kind of U-boat bottom here, as opposed to a Venezuelan type recovery here with lots of free monopoly money. Here it was more of a U-boat kind of thing, and that's what we're getting here. So there is definitely the potential, looking at all of this on-chain metrics, which is completely irrelevant other than now, really. So there's definitely the potential for a very heavy squeeze. Now, this is also interesting because I understand, based on the hash rate, that this might be moved forward. Why is that important? So if we have a look at this chart here, forget about the 40% and the cycle counts and everything else, forget it all that. This is the actual bottom to the halving. 366 days, 547, 517, right? What's interesting is we're exactly, let's assume this halving date is 1st of March 24, we're literally at the exact point almost where it's the same distance from the previous low. What I'm trying to say though is, even if you go off 366 days, what if they bring this halving forward to December 2023, which is very much possible. The point I'm trying to make is we are actually now in the time zone where potentially we could form some kind of low. So I think we're there or thereabouts, especially if this gets moved forward. And this hasn't really changed color though, because this would suggest we're still somewhere here. We're still 554 days away, but perhaps we're not 554 away. Perhaps we're more like 400 away or 450 away, in which case, time-wise, we're also due a bit of a pump. So, you know, multiple reasons here why I've gone bullish. Obviously, this is all secondary, all of this nonsense here. The most leading indicator for me is the chart, and it's the US dollar, which once again, we can just show you a complete inverse correlation here between Dixie Carter and, you know, Bitcoin. I mean, that is completely I mean, I've never seen, how can a Forex pair move like that? We've been calling for parity for a year, so we nailed that call. You know, that is a 3 drives pattern, ending diagonal. Surely the dollar has topped here for the year. If it hasn't, one more new high. But as you can see, you know, if this pulls back here, let me just pull up the dollar actually. I think it's easier. You know, if the dollar pulls back here, I mean, that's not looking like a good monthly chart, is it? You know, I mean, you've got this huge monthly block here, right? So the dollar could easily pull back into here and it could just consolidate for the next 3 months like this. During this period of consolidation, surely that's bullish, at least short term, for Bitcoin. You know, longer term, I happen to think, you know, it could be something like this. I'm not convinced the big dollar crash is coming. So that's my take basically. Now, the last thing to mention is there is obviously a correlation also between Bitcoin and inverse to the 10-year. I mean, that's inside month candle failure twice. So we've failed on the failure even though we've gone to our target. That is setting up an explosive move there. That pattern right there. Once you fail a failure, you know you need to be getting long the other way. So the pattern actually worked. It went straight to its target, took out the you know, parent candle low here, this inside candle here, but it's failed twice. It's now failing the other way. You know, there's a heavy potential for a huge short squeeze here. So I wouldn't be shorting this. Now there is an, you know, correlation here between bonds and Bitcoin, and we can just prove that also on the correlation coefficient. Let's just, I mean, it's probably around 80%, I reckon. Just guessing there. Yeah, it's dropped off a little bit here, but you know, I mean, it's been as high as 80%. The daily chart here, obviously we've had dips, ups and down. 2-week chart, fairly high correlation there. And as you know, to me, bonds are actually coming up to be a good buy here. So, you know, going into the end of the year, whilst the S&P makes literally no sense, I just refuse to look at that until I get more, you know, price action data. You know, surely that's getting close to, you know, that could turn at any time. So, you know, I'm actually seeing bullish developments here. Like I said, it's getting recorded 6 hours before the CPI data, which, you know, might affect this count. But 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, surely we're now on the 5 off the 5. So, you know, to me, you know, there is the potential. The dollar sells off, bonds could rally here, and therefore, obviously, inverse correlation between the 10-year and Bitcoin. You know, that is a double top right there. Highest it can go is 3.809. We're at 3.50. Maybe we get to 3.66. So it's surely that's very close to some kind of double top action going on there. Then we get a then we get a move down. If we just pull up the RSI, might be some divergence going on there. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, that's what I like to see. That is proper divergence. When it goes from above 70, the white area, back into the shaded area below 70. That's what I like to see. So if 10-year yield makes a new high here, I mean, it's just an incremental new high, you know, and this doesn't go back above 70, it kind of rolls over, then, you know, I'm only seeing positive developments here for Bitcoin. So that is my take. There are reasons behind this kind of, you know, move here last Friday. Sort of informed the group so far. We're up on their position. I don't think altcoins are a good thing to be holding right now, though, personally. I think it's Bitcoin's time to sort of shine here. And is anything else to be said? I mean, I don't think so. I think I've made that perfectly clear. So, leaning bullish, leaning towards a truncation here. This could last 2 months. Could last a quarter, could last 6 months. I don't really want to be leaning too bearish now, given that kind of move. The minute these, you know, consolidation blocks, you know, kind of got taken out. So obviously, if it collapses below here, then you've got a huge problem. So this is the invalidation zone, all of this. Right, because I'm reading all of that as an accumulation, by the way. So it can't, you know, it's got no business going back into it if it's bullish. That is, at best, we'll fill this futures gap here at, you know, 21,375. This is why you have to follow the futures. Like we follow ES. Why don't we follow Bitcoin futures? Right? You know, they've been around for 5 years now, so the volume is good. Maybe not as good as Binance or Bitstamp, and I get that, but these charts are getting better and better as each month goes by. So we don't get to see this gap on Bitstamp, do we? So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's just gonna consolidate here. Of course, it could just rally up out of here, but I get the feeling to now call for a huge dump, 17-18% dump from these levels with the dollar selling off. I just don't think that's going to happen, and I wouldn't be too sure. Anyway, that's my current take on Bitcoin. S&P I refuse to have a look at until get more price information. If you guys want to join the group, you know what to do, and you can take the masterclass too.